Welcome back to the Hat House, guys. And today's video is a sales video, and we're really talking about our strategy over the next couple of weeks. So what I've done in my store is I went ahead and took a 50% off sale, and I'm going to run that sale probably from now until the Cyber Monday, because it's really hard to get the customer's attention over the next couple of weeks. The big retailers, the Walmarts and the Targets of the world, are really going to be pushing their Black Friday sales hard. The customers are going to see, oh, wow, these are marked down 50%. These are marked down 70%. This is the only time you can get this great of a deal. So it's really hard to grab that customer's attention. So what I've done in my store is I've taken a 50% off sale. I'll run that until Monday, till the Cyber Monday. And then after that, I'll probably take that sale off and then just run my normal type of sales. From then until Christmas, the buyer starts worrying less and less about price as they're trying to find that specific item that they want to get for their loved one. So I can then command a little bit better price. If they're looking for an exact hat or an exact item, they're willing to pay for it after that. But right now, we really need to be trying to grab the attention and make that sale. That's going to be my strategy. I'd like to hear some of your tips and tricks of what you're going to be doing over this holiday season. And let us know down in the comments what you think a good strategy would be. So let's get to the garage and see what's sold. All right, guys, let's see what we've got going out today. I will tell you we got a lot of hats, but I also started a sale, 50% off. We'll see how that goes this week. So the sales prices aren't that great, but I'm trying to just move some hats out of the store right now and make some room. First up was this Adidas, just a flex fit hat. Went out for $6.50 with the Trefoil logo. Next up was this lightweight Reebok hat. It went out for $8, just a regular strap back, lightweight Reebok. Next up was this, this was a fitted San Diego Padres. It went out for like $12 on sale. Buyer picked it up. It was size 7 1/8, a little different. It had the mesh back on it. So it was a little different hat. I don't think it was kind of a niche market for who might want this one. Next up was a New Era Boise State Broncos fitted. This one went out for like $18. It was 7 3/8, good size. $59.50. Next up was a Kentucky Fried Chicken hat. Had the Colonel on the side. It was a snapback. It was pretty plain and blank, but it still went out for like $10. Next up was a Jim Beam hat. They never do that hot. And this was the strap back with the Velcro strap back. Somebody asked why you can't say Velcro, because the term is copyrighted. If you put Velcro in the listing, they will take it down almost every single time. It's better to say hook and loop, but I don't even use that. I just call it a strap back hat. Next up was Boston Celtics Adidas snapback. This one went out for like $11. Snapback Adidas, the big logo on it. Like I said before, the NBA hats really just around $10 or $12 is all they'll bring. Next up was a Columbia snapback. Had the name written in it still. Had a cool little feather patch though. Went out for $8. Next up was a nice little sale. This was a vintage Makita Power Tools. Still had pretty good foam in it. It was a snapback, and we know this one's vintage mainly because of the wear. Definitely, and it had the puff paint on it, and it had the tag right here that was made in Taiwan, and it had this big king snap on it. Next was a plain Champion dad hat, kind of this blue heather strap back. Went out for $4. Next up was a nice Houston Rockets that went for $12. It was snapback and New Era Houston Rockets, super clean, almost like new. Still $12 for our NBA friends. Next up was the Golden State Warriors Mitchell and Ness, really nice hat. Went for $8. Mitchell and Ness. This is like the wool blend with the big Golden State logo on it. $8 is a great deal. Next up was Oklahoma Sooners beanie, camouflage beanie cap. This one went out for like $10. Had the fleece inside. Nice little beanie cap. Next up was a really funny trucker hat. Let me make sure and say this correctly. Liquor in the front, poker in the rear. I hope the AI doesn't catch me on that one, thinking I'm saying something dirty, because that's what it says. That went out for $13. Next up was a Youth Kid San Francisco Giants hat. It was made by OC Sports, went out for $6. Next up was a Block Headwear flat cap. And on these, I always recommend that you put flat cap in the title as of the beginning. They're called many things. They're driving caps, cabbie caps, patty caps. There's a lot of different names for these. eBay really identifies them as flat caps, so I suggest that you put that in your title first. If you want to put some of those other names for it or looks for it, then I would do that at the end. But always list them under flat caps, and then put the other names for them later in the title. And this went out for $10. Next up was this Stormy Kromer women's hat. Had the cool little flower on the side of it. Stormy Kromer. These are made in USA. Really well made hats. Nice hats right here. This one was women's, size 7 1/4. Nice little green with the flower. Next up was this Hurley hat. Went out for $5. It was beautiful, like new. Just had it forever. Went on sale. Small, medium size, $5. Next up was this Nike Oregon Ducks. It went out for $6. Strap back. Had this Pepsi logo on the side too. So a lot of times those side logos and stuff will, if they're like commercial or advertisement, will bring down the sales price and the value. Next up was this Portland Gear hat. Went for $7.44. It was like new. Went on sale. They got a great deal. Had the Oregon Humane Society on the back too. Next up was this Nike Freak swoosh freak hat. It went out for $14. Just a little more rare of the Nike Freak styles. So I waited and got $14 for it. I think they offered me like $8. I didn't think there was many out there like that. Next up was your basic snapback Carhartt hat. Went out for $15. Always like finding the Carhartts. No matter the condition, they usually stay around $15. Next up was a combined order. Will you let me know how much it went for, Mary? This one went for, I believe, over $30. This one,
about $42 together.
$42 together. Yeah, they kind of probably threw in this hat. This one was really nice, and what I kind of talk about whenever you're pricing hats in the different colorways, this one was obviously a little different. Had a nice curve on it too. Whoever had it before knew how to curve a hat. But this was kind of a brownish beige with the blue, different colorway for Boston than you usually see. So we want to price those up a little bit, and we did well on this one. Combined order. Next up was a Mossy Oak hat. It went out for $6.50. Just a regular strap back hunting hat. Next up was an Adidas hat, just a regular Adidas strap back hat. It went out for $4. Next up was this Stillwater Milling Company. It was just a regular strap back, went out for like $6. Next up was this Alabama visor. It was by Nike. It was older. It was kind of like a Flex One Fit. Went out for $10. Next up was this cycling hat. It went international. It went for $16 plus the international shipping. Still had the tags on it too. Most of the time cycling hats are $10 to $15. Next up was a regular Nike visor, or this one was Nike Golf. Usually doesn't matter if it's golf or lightweight or whatever. Went out for $10, white with the black swoosh. Next up was this Levi flat cap. It went out for $18. It was cool because it was adjustable and it was green. There's the Levi's tag. Levi flat cap. Next up was this Scala flat cap. Kind of this houndstooth design right here. And you always want to put what kind of design you have in your title, whether it be plaid or houndstooth or herringbone. It was an extra large. It went for $15. Next up was the flat cap that you were looking for. This is the one to be on the lookout for. This is Boston Scally Company. This one had the name written in it. It was plain black. It still went for $40. They make a lot of flat caps. Some of them are like brighter. You got the plaid ones that go for a little bit more that are really cool. But Boston Scally is the flat cap company. There's other ones out there, but this one's definitely a bolo. It can go for well into the $50 to $60 if you have a really cool design. This one went for $40. Next up was the Cincinnati Bengals. It went out for $12. It was in the 100 hats we listed in one day. It was a flex fit, $39.30. Nice Bengals hat. Next up was this Donald Duck. It was in the 100 hats we listed in one day too. I was surprised to find out that there was none other on the market like this in a new era snapback. So it sold for what?
$36.
$36. So I went in and priced mine up around the $40, $45 mark and took the offer for $36. Didn't see any others out there. Didn't see any sold. So I went with the little bit higher side. I doubt it's like $100 hat, but when you got the only one, this one was branded Disney too. And it was New Era. So I thought I could get at least 30 or 40. Next up was Chippendale. Is it Chippendale? Are they dancers or are they Rescue Rangers?
They're Rescue Rangers.
Okay, these are Rescue Rangers, not the dancers, I guess. Chippendale Rescue Rangers. Strapback still had the tags on it. Did have a stain on it, but still went for $18. Next up was a Smith & Wesson hat. Went out for $9. Gun hats always sell really quick. Maybe not always a bunch of money, but this one sold in about a day. Smith & Wesson hat. Next up was a vintage Columbia hat, and here's the vintage Columbia tag. Made in USA, size large. Typically the vintage Columbia is made in USA. There's this kind of older looking tag on it like this. This bucket hat went for what? $14. Next up was this vintage Luber Finer. Vintage patch hat. It was on the Made in USA tag, and it went out for $25. Sometimes people are just looking for this exact patch to replace the hat that they had. This one did really well, $25. All right, let's get to a question. The first question comes from Bad Daddy MO and says, why does Mary never wear a hat?
Thanks for the feedback. I will try to do better.
All right, let's see what's going out in this batch. Like I said, we started a 50% off sale in our store. It's going pretty well. Some of these hats are going about $5 or $6 less than I'd like them to sometimes, but that's just the breaks. Sometimes you sell things for a little bit less, but get things really moving out. Hopefully I'll get this video out to you guys before I end it and stop the count. But then you can check out some of the hats that we have. So I should keep it going through most of this week. I just don't know when I'm going to end it. I might just end it at any time. And kind of keeps the suspense in the store. But anyways, Adidas hat, dad hat, $6 going out. Next up was this cool vintage Pebble Beach 2000 US Open strap back. And we know it's vintage because it says 2000 on it. And it also has this paper tag in here. And anytime you get one dated, like it says 2000, so you know that's vintage, then start looking at the other characteristics on the hat that you can look for next time. Like this one says made in the USA. So that's kind of a good clue too, even if it didn't say 2000 on the hat, that is probably a vintage hat because it was made in the USA. Next up is Florida State Seminoles, FSU. This is like a flex fit Zephyr hat. It's going to our friends in Canada. It went out for $9.44. Next up was a Converse snapback. This one went out for like $9. Just a regular Converse with a circle patch on it, snapback. Next up was this Columbia like ski trapper hat. This one was pretty lightweight. It had this whatever a boogaboo is on the side of it too. I don't know if that's personalized or if that's a place, but it went out for like $10. Next up was this vintage New York hat. It just said New York on it, but we knew that it was vintage because we looked at the hat tag. It's got the paper tag on it. It says made in Korea, making it vintage, and it was on, well, that's a new snap to me, so I might learn something today too. Samjung snap. So just a cool vintage white New York hat, went out for like $12. Next up was this nice Chicago Bears, went out for $9. It wasn't vintage or anything. It was on this team apparel tag, NFL team apparel, but it had a really good, cool embroidery on it. Next up was a nice combined order. This Stroh's hat was probably $20. All these went out for $28. I was okay to get rid of these other two hats with this hat. This was a vintage Stroh's beer. It just came out of our unboxing video. And then I bought this vintage Pistons hat and this Patagonia, kind of a trucker hat. It was kind of faded, discolored. I was okay, $30 for 3 hats. Next up was a hat that came out of our hat buy video where we bought the lot off of eBay and flip it back on eBay. This one went out for $22. Really cool Budweiser Cerveza official, 1994 dated. And again, we'll look at the tag. It's made in USA. The tag on the back says made in USA. And all these things we need to remember next time we find a hat that's not dated, that can help us date when that hat might be from. Nice, beautiful hat. Next up was this Portland Trailblazers. It went out for $9. It was the 47 brand, flex fitted. These usually don't go as good as the franchise perfect fits, so they don't sell for as much usually. This one's kind of a flex fit dad hat, $9. Next up was this Oregon State Beavers 47 brand bucket hat with the beavers all over it. Really cool. Went out for $12. And after that, we had another Beavers hat. It went out for $12 as well. Nike with the swoosh on it. On the front, this is a Legacy Stretch Flex Fitted hat. All right, next up was the Seattle Mariners. Went out for $14. I got a heck of a deal on my hat sale. 7 1/4. Great size. Great color Mariners hat. Did have somebody's name written in it, but still, it was in really good condition. Great deal. Next up was another great deal. They got $25 on this Yankees. This is vintage diamond collection with the side patch. New York Yankees. It was size 7 3/4 as well. Got a really good deal. This is probably a $40 to $50 hat. Went out for $25. Sometimes the buyer wins. All right. Next up was this Arizona Diamondbacks and the San Diego Padres. These went out for $20 combined. They were size 7, and we've talked about size 7. Kind of goes for a little bit less. So I took $10 on each of these. Really nice $59.50 fitted hats. Next up, they got a really good deal on this Brooklyn Dodgers as well. It went out for like $14, $15. It was a retro kind of remake, 7 1/8, but still really cool Brooklyn Dodgers new era fitted. Next up was this Kansas State Fiesta Bowl hat. Went out for $19. Really cool 1997 K-State EMA hat. Beautiful. Next up was this Outdoor Research, kind of a fleece winter hat. It has said wind stopper on it. Went out for like $12. Nice little winter hat. Next up, probably regret this one. This one went out for like $9. It was a beautiful vintage new era Washington State Cougars. Super clean. Got an awesome deal on this. This is a $20 to $30 hat. Probably all day if you wait around. But they got a great deal. Next up was another great deal. Moving hats, $30 for 2 Lacoste hats. With shipping. They got a good deal on these as well. So congratulations. Next up was New York Yankees 3930 Flex Fit. Size large, extra large, new era hat. Went out for $10. Next up was this Auburn hat. It was a Nike strapback Auburn hat. Went out for $11.48. Really nice Nike hat. Next up was this vintage Seattle Mariners. It was in pretty rough shape. The bill was pretty bent. Didn't have the size in it anymore. But it was vintage. This is the vintage new era. This is like early 90s new era tag in here. Maybe late 80s. It's a wool pro model. These are usually made in USA too, even though it's not on the tag. But really cool with the retro logo on here. And it went out for how much, Mary?
$12.48.
$12.48. All right. One more question from Mary. Let's see what she's got.
Okay. We have one from Thrifter Realtor. Says, so you do ship in a box. That's crazy. That's got to be at least $1 to your shipping overhead. I use a poly bag and a wad of paper.
Well, those are tough negatives to combat sometimes. When you get a negative for shipping a hat in a poly bag and it gets smashed into a pancake. But I get it. Boxes are expensive. If you haven't seen our box video, make sure you check that out. It goes over all the different size boxes, how much they cost. If you're buying them in lots of 100, it's really closer to about 50 cents a box that we pay. And I got something else cool to show you. Check out this stamp I got for our boxes. It says, check us out on YouTube at Hat House 79, so that's really cool too. The stamp is okay. I don't know if I recommend it on the video quite yet to use this company. I'm going to get maybe a different stamp pad. Maybe it'll stamp a little better. But I thought it turned out pretty cool. Let me know what you guys think about our stamp. It'll be cool to send out all of our boxes with a stamp on it and maybe get a few more people over to the channel using this stamp. But to kind of finish up the question, I couldn't be Hat House if I ship things in a poly bag. I mean, that's just asking for hat people to come after me and to rip my store apart and say, this guy doesn't even ship hats in a box. He sends out hats in a poly mailer. Look at my hat. It's all smashed up. It's not even close to the way that it was pictured. So I get it. They're expensive. I'm going to have to take on that expense. More for the reputation than anything, and the customer experience. The customer deserves to get exactly what you pictured and send it out in the condition that it was shown in the picture. And a poly mailer with a wadded up piece of paper typically won't get it there like that. All right, guys, let's see what's going out in this lot. This is like our second full day of having the 50% sale on. One thing I did do, because nothing irritates me more personally than marking stuff down to a great price and then getting someone that offers like even $1 less than the price you just marked it down to. I know everybody wants to get just a little bit better deal, but sometimes I just don't have the mental capacity to deal with that. All those types of offers that come in for just like $1 less than what you already marked it down to. So I turned the best offer off on the store for right now. Most of these hats just sold. Most of them are a great deal already, and people are getting a great kind of Black Friday deal in our store right now. But I just turned off the best offer. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I turn it back on, but we'll let you know. All right, first up was this New York & Company. That's like a 5-panel, had all sorts of plaid, houndstooth designs on it. It still had the tags. This one in particular wasn't the best made hat. It was made in USA, but you can just feel it's not a very well made hat. It went out for $12. Next up was this Andres Oil Ketchikan. I think that's Alaska. This was a pretty cool vintage hat. Went out for $10. As you can see here, it's made in USA on this paper tag, so we know it's vintage. And it had the made in USA snaps on it. Next up was this Municipal Gear. This is a pretty good brand to be on the lookout for. Yeah, went out for about $18. Strap back. Here's the Municipal tag too. Pretty good streetwear brand. Usually sells for pretty well. And this one was super clean. Next up was this Under Armour hat. Just a regular flex fit hat. Went out for around $10. Super clean. Like I told you, the Under Armour hats are hit and miss. This one had the ISO Chill in it. I always want to put that in there in your title, whatever kind of Under Armour hat it is. Sometimes people are looking for that specific version. Next up was this Pumpkin Ridge Golf Club. It had this ghost patch on it, and it had the tags. I wouldn't have known it was Pumpkin Ridge unless I had this tag on there. It was made by Seamus Golf. I think it was just a really cool hat. Went out for $17.
$14.44.
It went out for $14.44. Really cool golf hat. Next up was this Nike Oregon. I went ahead and called it Oregon Ducks because the Ducks use this Oregon State logo a lot of times on their hats. Really cool hat. Went out for $12. Next up was this Nike lightweight hat. I told you always the The different colors always sell really fast. I think this one sold in a day. With the 50% off sale, it went out for $9. Usually it's around $12 to $15 at least for the nice colors, but this one went fast. Next up, this hat is priced all over the place. This one, I sold this one for around $22. There's some listed for $40, $50. It's Breitling. They make watches. Pretty neat hat. This one's a little kind of rare. I think that's why it holds the value a little bit higher. I sold mine quick for $22. Probably 30 to 40 you can expect to get from it if you wait around. Next up was this Dodgers hat. They got a great deal on it. It went out for $9. Just a fitted Dodgers. The size in it was kind of faded out, but it was 7 1/8. They got an awesome deal. Next up was just a cycling hat. Went out for $9. Cycling hats usually do pretty well, around $10 to $15. They sell pretty quick. Next up, we had a Miami Dolphins New Era 3930 flex fitted hat. Went out for
$9.48.
$9.48. Half price sale right there. They got a great deal. Next up was this Notre Dame lacrosse hat. And it went out for $14.48, about $15. It was an Under Armour. And the specialty ones I usually mark up because it's just probably harder to find lacrosse. And I think Notre Dame is actually really good at lacrosse, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're like the #1 team, or they won the championship last year. I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. But really cool Notre Dame lacrosse hat. All right, one more question for today. Florida Native 59 asks, can you show us how to go about combining an order when a buyer purchases multiple items? And Mary is probably the best one to answer that one as well. So we'll let her answer that for you.
Okay, I can't really show you the screen because it has the buyer's information on there, but you're going to go into the bulk editing tool and highlight all of your items that you have to ship that day, and then click purchase shipping label. Once you go to the next screen, if you have any items that were from the same buyer, it will tell you in the top left corner that you have items that can be combined. You just click that and then it will automatically combine them for you. And then you go in and you can adjust the weight and whether you need to ship it, ground or priority.
Why don't you wear a hat, Mary?
I don't know what you're talking about. I always have a hat on.
Seriously.